Khun Eduan, or Khun Eduan in the official webtoon translation, is the leader of one of the 10 great families, the Khun Family, and one of the original 13 warriors who climbed the tower alongside Jihad and V and Arlen. Eduan is the first family head, was the first family head that we ever met in the series, and there is a lot that we know about this guy, like way more than I remembered before making this video. Obviously, he's most well known for being the leader of the Khun Family. His symbol is right here. I always thought the Khun Family symbol was so interesting because there's a sword at the bottom, and I always wondered what that was all about. Like, is it to represent their backstabbing nature? And if you don't know, that is one thing that the Khun Family is certainly known for. Eduan was, yes, very loud, extroverted, boisterous even, and he loved to pick fights and develop rivalries, but he was also very known for his intelligence, something that he clearly passed down to his family, although, again, they're more known for this kind of cunning intelligence. A lot of them are shady, backstabbing, kind of very, very cruel in terms of what they utilize their intelligence for, and they developed a kind of bad reputation for it. All of that stems back to Eduan, although we see from the flashbacks that he didn't really have this super early on, at least as far as we know. It's something he probably developed later on in life as he became a leader and started founding his own family and getting into politics and such. There are three major things that Khun Eduan is known for. The first, he's got a lot of kids, and it's primarily stemming from the fact that he has the most wives out of anybody in the entire tower. Now, what's interesting about this, yes, Eduan is a womanizer, and that's like the main thing he's known for is how many wives he has. But what's interesting is that, yes, he has thousands of children. He doesn't actually have the most kids out of the family heads. That would go to Hendolak Bloodmatter, the man who has countless kids because he can't be immortal unless he does, and his children don't live very long because of it. Shout out Hendolak Bloodmatter. I hope to see you in Tower of God someday. But he does have a lot of kids, so many, in fact, that they end up developing these internal conflicts. These conflicts with one another, even the wives with one another, ended up leading to this tournament that is held, this fighting contest that is held every single year within the Khun Family. When you turn 10 years old, you gotta fight for the right to remain in the Khun Family, and if you lose, you could even die. These are known to be bloody, but if you lose, you get kicked out of the family. This is something that Eduan himself attends every single year, and even though he said at one point that he doesn't really care about it, he still shows up and supports it. Freaking crazy. Khun Hind Luck of Hidden Grove fame even said at one point that Khun Eduan was the worst father in the entire tower. Like, we make jokes about like, ooh, dads in Tower of God are awful, unless you're Arcraptor, and then you're the best. But Eduan literally, like literally is called the worst dad in the series. But it's okay, he's good in other ways. Like, for example, the second main thing that he's known for, which is Lightning Shinsu. Lightning Shinsu is very difficult to control, particularly to shape, like using Lightning Shinsu to create weapons or objects. And from a very young age, Eduan was a master at this, which proves that he's a genius at controlling Shinsu. Being able to control Lightning Shinsu actually grants you an entire special position called Junsolsa, and most of the Junsolsas in the tower are from the Khun Family. However, not all of them. We see that Leiro Ro is a special exception. He's able to not only use Lightning Shinsu, but even the lightning pill, as evidenced by the marks on his cheeks, which we see Ron has when he uses the lightning pill. Eduan is able to use this Lightning Shinsu to unleash devastating attacks, but also to enhance his own speed and mobility. We see this during the housewarming party of Traumarize and Amuses during the Enkidu flashbacks, where he shows up in like a flash, literally, just to show off a little bit. Eduan has two sobriquets, or nicknames, something that you're given once you become a ranker and a high ranker specifically. The first being the Marlin, or more accurately, like literally translated, the blue swordfish, which is pretty cool, right? And this stems from his spear. He owns a spear, a legendary compression weapon called Mago. And Mago is so crazy that when uncompressed, according to Eduan, it could slice and pierce through half the tower. Almost certainly an exaggeration from the man himself, but still badass. But he actually has a second sobriquet. He's also known as the Blue Thunderclap, once again emphasizing how fast he is with his lightning Shinsu. What's funny is that apparently people wanted to call him the Electric Eel, but he took so great offense at this that he was gonna kill anybody who called him that. He didn't want to be known as an eel, which is so funny. I wonder if his signature Pokemon should be Electros. It's like, how pissed off would he be if that was his starter? What do you think Edwan's signature Pokemon would be? Comment down below. Actually, comment down below, and then at the end, I'm gonna predict what I think you put down. I think I know what people are gonna say for Khun Eduan. Let's see if I got it right at the end of the video. There are actually a couple of times we see Data Edwan using specific named lightning-based Shinsu skills, one of them being Montana Azul, literally from Spanish, blue mountain. And it's like a tall javelin thing. The descriptor that he gives it is taller than the highest mountain, which again calls back to his weapon, the Mago, which is actually so cool because it like ties back to blog posts from years and years before this chapter even came out. Still an exaggeration, but nonetheless. We also see him use Dawn of Lightning, which is like a barrage of Shinsu lightning bangs, which is pretty sick. And then the other one is Giant's Lightning Spear, which is a giant lightning spear. Lightning is like the main thing Edwan is known for in terms of his Shinsu quality, but he actually has a second Shinsu quality, Ice. We see that Khun Aguero picks up on this quality from his father. We see him developing the Ice Spear, but we also see it with Khun Royale Elliot, the ruler of the 44th floor. What's crazy is that he actually has a third quality. He mentions this in the hidden floor. We never learn what the third quality is though. I'm just gonna assume it's something like grapes. Like he can use like grape Shinsu. He's a big fan of grapes. That's my assumption until proven otherwise. Oh, and he can also obviously use Shinwan Ryu or Shinsu Black Hole Sphere, which is something that all of the original warriors learned how to do during the rice pot training with the God of Guardians. But the third main thing that Khun Eduan is known for is being the greatest spear bearer in the entire tower. There are so many cool pieces of trivia about this. First of all, he is ranked 6th in the entire tower's rankings. This places him above characters like Adori and Eurasia and Jihad, above Ha Yurin and the rest of the warriors, but below characters like Jihad and Yurik and REA Hone. So REA Hone, if you don't know, Hone, Edwan, and Yurin, like Ha Yurin, are the 3 strongest of the Great Family leaders, and their families are also known for being the top 3 Great Families. And what's funny about this is that apparently Edwan and Hone kind of have this rivalry because Hone is 1 spot above Edwan. And what's so cool is, again, we see this bickering during the Amuse and Traumarai flashback. Like we see them arguing and bickering, which is such a cool callback to blog posts from so long ago. But yeah, that makes him the 2nd strongest, aside from Jihad, V, and Arlen, out of the 10 Great Family leaders. But being the greatest spear bearer in the tower is pretty nuts. When paired with Hendel Lock Bloodmatter, the defender of the team, they were known to be an unstoppable duo, which is kind of funny because they're both the people with the most kids. Like they almost certainly bonded over that. But with Hendel Lock Bloodmatter like defending Edwan, Edwan could just chuck spears all day long and not have to worry about defense, which I imagine would be the greatest weakness of a lot of spear bearers. But with Hendel Lock Bloodmatter there, Edwan could snipe people all day. They were an unstoppable duo. It's so cool. Even though he was the spear bearer of the team, he could also take on the role of fisherman when he needed to. We see this actually on the hidden floor when he teams up with Data Jihad. This is why, by the way, a lot of people in the Khun family are spear bearers. It's the common trope with like characters like Mashini and even Ron. They're known to be best suited for spear bearer. Even Khun Aguero was known to be could have been an exceptional spear bearer, but instead he chose to prioritize his intelligence and his strategic nature, and so became a light bearer. But just by virtue of being a Khun, you sort of have this inclination to being a spear bearer, at least in the vast majority of cases. Those are the main things that Traumarai. Traumarai, get your own video. But those are the main things that we know about Edwan as far as his main primary features go, but I want to dive into his history, the timeline of what we know currently about Khun Eduan as of the end of season 3. The earliest that we ever see Edwan is when they're climbing the tower as a team of 13. Now, we don't ever see the team fully, at least not yet, but we do see him traveling with Traumarai and Gustang and V. Jan Hana, and Jihad himself. They're kind of like a little core team. Funnily enough, these are 6 characters. I almost imagine that maybe these 6 were commonly working together, and then you divide it by half, and the other 7 were a team that often worked together. I almost just think this is CU not wanting to like spoil all the family heads right away, but it is interesting. We do see these 6 characters together like quite often, funnily enough. During this time, we see that the group goes through a lot of tests and hardships, right? These are administrator tests, so these were harder than the current tests that are in place through Jihad. And we see the decision that Traumarai had to make, where all those people were killed, and Edwan was present for all of that. We also see there's like a cute little argument where him and Hana are going back and forth. Not Hana, Irang. I'm never gonna get over that, bro. She's always gonna be Hana in my heart, always. Irang and Edwan are like debating about like how the test went, and she even calls him out for targeting Urin's enemy, an enemy that Urin should have taken on, but Edwan was like, oh, they jumped out at me and I just had to, I had to strike back right away. It shows that he's a bit reckless, and for someone like Irang, like he should have followed the plan. I love scenes like this because it shows that they have a team dynamic. Like, hey, Urin's the fisherman. She's supposed to take on the enemies that appear out of nowhere. You're supposed to stay spear-bearing, right? Like, according to plan. But Edwan loves to fight, and he's a bit rambunctious. Is that the right word? And so it's just so fun to see. Funnily enough, this was the same night that Gustang became the judge of the team, and that V handed him those weapons, those items, and kind of declared him to be the arbiter of arguments like this very one. Also, I don't think they talked for like weeks. I think this argument between Irang and Edwan was like kind of serious for them. Then again, serious for them at this time probably isn't that serious overall. Sometime around this point, either directly before or directly after, they end up doing the God of Guardians rice pot training, and Edwan leaves behind, along with the others, his regular data through the mirror of the past onto the hidden floor, kind of permanently leaving behind a copy of himself at that current time. Much later, after finishing climbing the tower, we see that Edwan attends the housewarming party of Traumarai and Amuse to celebrate their ship being finished, and he's having a good time. He arrives in like a storm of lightning just to show off a little bit. He bickers with Arie Hone, he flirts with the ladies that are there, and we see him drinking a lot, having a good time, just like old times, having fun with his old companions. But more importantly, this is of course the night that Amuse is murdered. And importantly, Edwan was a witness to this. He didn't directly see it happen, but he is the first on the scene after she is killed by quote-unquote Enkidu, Traumarai, that whole thing. And in one shot, he incapacitates Enkidu, of course, assuming that Enkidu is the one that killed her. I find this to be very tragic because we saw just moments before, or maybe a couple hours before this moment, that Edwan was very much like kind of there for his bro Traumarai, like they're there, you went through a breakup, I've been there before, trust me. And yet like Traumarai immediately goes and murders her through Enkidu, and Edwan just kind of watches it all go down without knowing what really happened. Regardless, Edwan, along with Gustang and everybody else, all the other leaders, erases his own memory of this incident. So if you went to Edwan, like current Edwan, and asked him about Amuse, he wouldn't know. This is something that nobody remembered. That's why Gustang had to go all the way to Enkidu himself to ask what had happened. So yes, Edwan was an important witness to the whole Amuse, Enkidu, Traumarai situation, but he wouldn't remember it currently, at least until he someday gets his memories back. Sometime after this, Edwan goes on to have a child named Khun Mashini, who to this day is the only princess of Jihad from the Khun family to have obtained one of the 13 months. So fun fact, she is to this day the only Khun princess to have received that honor, which is of course the Yellow May. Meanwhile, the data of Khun Eduan has remained on the hidden floor for a very long time until one day, Data Jihad is like, hey, I met the real Jihad and he gave me this mirror. So it's a mirror within the mirror world, and this will allow us to access the hidden floor. And all the family heads are like, sick, let's go, let's escape the riffraff that are accompanying us in the current hidden floor, let's go to our own secret hideout. Everybody goes except for Khun Eduan, Data Khun Eduan, because he notices that Data Jihad is acting differently since his meeting with the real Jihad. His instincts are correct, his sort of suspicions are proven right, as the other family leaders are all just deleted. They're all gone, leaving only Data Jihad and Data Khun Eduan as the survivors within the hidden floor. Data Eduan is so fun, such a fun character. He ends up just sticking around, and as more and more of his Data children show up, he kind of recruits them into his own little gang, his own little squad, consisting of Data Khun Akardi, Data Khun Marco Asensio, and then Data Khun Mashidi, who's the leader of them all. The main thing he does is he eventually becomes Bam's master during Bam's time at the hidden floor. He teaches Bam and his companions about Shinsu qualities, that, you know, Rak, your Shinsu quality is earth, and Khun, yours is ice, Bam, yours is the orb. Like, it's such an important, vital moment in Tower of God, and all under the tutelage of Data Khun Eduan. But none of that would have been possible without Han Sung-yu. So the real Han Sung tried to find Data Khun Eduan, but couldn't. He searched all throughout the hidden floor, eventually gave up, left behind Data Han Sung to continue this goal of finding him, and once Data Han Sung did find him, he told him that someday V's son would arrive, that Data, the real Jihad I should say, is like a tyrant and a murderer, and that this is all according to Arlen's fate. It's so interesting. Like, this whole dynamic between Data Han Sung and Data Eduan is one of the most underlooked parts of the series, in my opinion, and all of that leads Data Khun Eduan to place so much trust in Bam. Edwan later went on to oversee Bam's fight against Data Jihad and ends up joining with Data Jihad, his old kind of friend slash enemy. They team up to take on the real Jihad, and Data Eduan consumes a pill that deletes himself and the rest of the hidden floor. Rest in peace to my goat. The only other thing that we may know about Eduan is that he probably was one of the leaders who somewhat stood up for Bam. There's a couple panels in season 3. We see like the hands of some of the great family heads who are deciding what to do about Bam. Listen, I'm not gonna sit here and claim that I know which hand is Eduan's, but I have a hunch that he is one of them. But yeah, that's the entire timeline of Khun Eduan. Aside from that, there's just a couple random trivia points about Eduan, which I find are kind of interesting. Apparently, according to a very old blog post, Khun Eduan is 7'4", which is really tall, and like it's really interesting because I didn't like notice this height disparity when we saw him on the hidden floor and then later on during the amuse flashbacks and stuff. So like, I don't know if that's still canon, but at one point he was apparently 7.5 feet tall. Apparently, if you're a regular, you can challenge Khun Eduan and take him on. You can fight him, but if you lose, you die. And if you win, you get his whole family's belongings, which is cool, but no regular has ever survived. Go figure. But this is relevant because Eduan is a collector. He has a lot of precious items in his treasure vault, and we know that Khun Aguero stole a couple of these items, most notably Manbarandina, his little suitcase bag, and this shocked the administrators on the second floor. We even see that during the hide and seek test, when Khun has that plan with a knock, the pulley that he uses is actually another rare item from Khun Eduan's vault. The last thing I'll say about Eduan is most likely where a lot of his origins came from. It's most likely that Eduan is based on Dionysus, a Greek god who is known for his love of women and his love of wine. And we see that Eduan loves grapes. We see on the hidden floor that Han Sung is able to bribe him with like grape juice, you know, and that's why Eduan even talks to Han Sung-yu. And he's a hedonist, right? Like, he just loves pleasure seeking, which is very much in common with Dionysus. So it's very likely that the two of them not share an origin. Yeah, but Dionysus was based on Khun Eduan, believe it or not. But if you're ever wondering why Eduan is a bit eccentric, Dionysus is also quite an eccentric character in Greek mythology. And that is everything that we know about Khun Eduan. I'm sure I'll have to make this video again in 5 years, but until that time comes, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters who make this content possible. A special shout out to the Rankers, Mr. Nexo, Olaf Lind, Smap the Slayer Anime, and Soren Quasargrok. Really appreciate your support in particular. If you want to be a supporter of the channel and appear here at the end, click on the link in the description. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next lore video. Peace! Actually, comment down below, and then at the end, I'm gonna predict what I think you put down. I think I know what people are gonna say for Khun Eduan. Let's see if I got it right at the end of the video. I think it's gonna be Luxray. I think the comments are gonna say Luxray.